Hello, friends. This is episode 50, a momentous milestone of the journey to self love and hack your thoughts. And today is part four of our Unshaken series. And today's called You Are Not Meant to Carry This Alone. The world tells us to be strong, to be capable, to carry it all on our own. We told that independence is strength, that asking for help is weakness, that vulnerability is risky or worse, embarrassing. But here's the truth, friend. We were never meant to carry this alone. And yet most of us are. Most of us do. We're living in a world that rewards overfunctioning and punishes softness. A world where silence is mistaken for strength and exhaustion is worn like a badge of honor. People are thrilled to be exhausted, proudly declares, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm really tired. I'm guilty, I've been there. We project wellness while privately unraveling. We show up for others, but not always for ourselves. We give support, but how often do we ask for it? And we're breaking because of it. There's a cost to performing strength, to pretending that we're strong instead of being strong. And there's a sacred kind of wisdom in knowing when to say, I can't do this alone. That's what this episode is about. That's why it matters. Healing is not a solo project. We're not meant to heal on our own, in isolation. Because trust, real trust, starts within. And also because asking for help is not weakness, it's wisdom. Today, we're going to talk about what it means to stop performing self-sufficiency and start practicing connection, to start practicing trust and sharing strength. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. And if you're enjoying the series, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need this reminder. You don't have to hold it all together to be strong. This is episode 50 of Hack Your Thoughts, part 4 of our Unshaken series, and today's message is simple but true. You are not meant to carry this alone. Before I introduce my panelists, I just want to share a quick personal story. In my marriage of 25 years, being in a relationship with the same person for 29 years, I pretended I was strong. I pretended that everything was okay, but inside, it was eating me up. Everybody thought I was good. Everybody thought I had it together. But inside, I felt alone and I felt like I was crumbling. And it took a catalyst in my life to cause me to break from that. But once I broke through, I began to realize that there are so many people that I'm surrounded with that really care, that have always been there, that I wished I could have reached out and they could have helped me. So many people came to me and said to me, Chloe, why didn't you reach out? That could be you that I'm talking to right now. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm joined again by 3 incredible humans. My brother, Dr. Yubilis Timothy, amazing coach, Kevin Johnson, and another amazing coach, Steve Tulowitzki. So thrilled to have you all back with together again. We're going to start singing a song here. So really, really thrilled. every one of you brings not just expertise but such lived wisdom and experiences. If you've walked, I know you all, you've walked through seasons of stress, of leadership, of transition, of healing, and some of you, all of us are probably still walking some of that journey right now. It's not like we say, okay, we walked that, now it's behind us. Do we ever stop walking that journey? So, you're here to remind us that connection isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. So, why don't you all just take a moment and just say hi and a little bit of one little thing about yourself that you want everybody to know. Yubi, why don't you go first?
Hello, I'm Eubulus, and I am living in Durban, South Africa. That's on the east coast of South Africa, and I'm sure you have heard a lot about South Africa recently. And um, I live in a city that's very, very similar to Los Angeles in temperature and color of the sky and things like that. And I'm on the coast, so I'm always on the beach, always around water. It rains a lot nowadays, and so we don't even know what season. Although we're supposed to be we're in autumn, but the seasons are all weird. So, but I love my city. It's in my opinion, and I've been blessed to live around the world for long periods of time, and I've only just come back. It's one of the best cities in the world. And unfortunately, I would say, like everybody who lives in their own city, we don't know that it is the best city.
True, true, true. You just took me back home. Anyway, KJ.
Thank you. Well, I'm Kevin Anthony Johnson. Call me KJ. I am coming to you from Costa Rica, the wonderful town of San Jose, the capital city of Costa Rica. I've been living down here for a couple of years, and since Ubulus took us down the geographic road, I'll do the same. Um, Part of the reason I love this country is the kindness of its people, the peace loving nature of its people, and the happiness quotient of the culture here. I've seen folks who have a lot and who have little, and they're both equally happy and excited and joyful. And when they hit the beach, you can't tell the difference between them.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's actually really, really stunning to come from America and come here and see the quality of life that these people live is so much higher than ours. It's just like it's just a kind of a constant striving that doesn't exist here, which is profound. So it's one of the reasons why I was attracted to come here in the first place. But I've been here 2 years and I absolutely love it. I come back to the States every now and then. So yeah, there's that.
Steve?
Go for it, Steve.
Yeah, and I'm Stephen Robert Tulowitzki, but you can call me Steve, or some call me Tulo, as I've mentioned before. I live in the Durban slash Costa Rica of Michigan in the United States. It's called Grand Rapids. And we live here by choice. We moved here last summer. We chose the community for a lot of the same reasons that you're talking about. Okay, it snows a lot. We get lake effect snow, but there are many beaches we need to explore. There's the west coast of Michigan has amazing beaches and so many miles of beaches and dunes and all of that. Um, but we moved here because we were drawn to it. One of my friends from where I came from, he says, if you think about everything you would want your city to have, Grand Rapids has it. And it's true. Just as an example, in June, my wife Celine and I will be able to walk from our house in 30 minutes to go see Kevin Hart, and we got tickets. Yeah. So what could be better?
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking us on the journey to where you are right now geographically. And so let's get into the conversation. You are not meant to carry this alone. And it's about self sufficiency, how we want to be self sufficient, because there's almost a demand for us to be self sufficient. Um, So let's start with this first question. What's a moment in your life when asking for help felt like the hardest and most necessary thing you could do? KJ, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the more pivotal moments in my life was I was 19. I was at Michigan State University, and I found out that one of my dad's checks had bounced. And so after a few days, I realized that that wasn't going to be resolved, and I was basically, kicked out of school. So I went home, and within a month, we got a notice that we were going to be evicted, and it was just this financial avalanche that was taking place in my family. And after some time bouncing from hotel to friends' basements and friends' empty bedrooms, I ended up having this moment where I knew I needed to be my own man. And I asked for one of my church members, members at my church, to grab me and my stuff and take me back to Lansing, Michigan, because I wanted to figure out how I was going to get back into school. And when I got there, it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. It didn't happen as easy as I thought it would, and I ended up not actually going back to Michigan State to get my degree. But while I was there, I realized that I didn't want to go back home, but I didn't have any money and I didn't have any place to stay. And so I reached out to some of my friends, and I'll name them: Jeffrey Hunter, Damian Murchison, Victor Manning, Larry Williams, Edward Fubara. And those five guys made their homes available to me, not for free, because I was cutting their hair every weekend, making my signature sandwiches and things like that, just to earn my keep. But it was a difficult thing to ask for. I was a young dude. I was trying to establish my manhood, but here I am asking these more grown men than me for their help and their assistance, and for them to open up their doors to me. And they more than willingly did that. It was a huge, huge boost to my confidence and also to my trust in other men, and being able to ask for that help in a very, very difficult, humbling time, and to be look back on it and know that that was one of the more nourishing experiences that I've had in my lifetime. Was when I asked for help from those guys.
And if you didn't ask for help, you would have never known that they were there and that they would help you. You would have, and
Hmm.
you talked about that was a nourishing time of your life. You would have not experienced that nourishment. So imagine how
Yeah,
often we miss out on an opportunity to be nourished by others.
yeah.
Um, Yuri, what you?
Uh, my moment of absolute, I think, fear and loss was when my daughter was born or about to be born, and we in the delivery room, and then it dawned on me I had no idea what to do. I had no idea, and I was filled with fear that it was my responsibility to take care of another life. And it was very, very daunting and overwhelming. And of course, her mother was giving birth, and the whole concept of what was happening, that. But from my point of view, this fear that came upon me, that what do I do? How do I look after another life? I can't even look after mine properly. I'm still learning, and now I have to be in charge of a life. And it's a life. And that kept coming back to me. You just, and then as she was born, it became more and more overwhelming. And when I held her in my hand, and finally, like within a minute of her being born, I held her in my hand, because I was right there. And I said, what I'm going to do, this is a human being in my hand that I have to now take care of. And that was good. And then my dad turns up and he says, you know what, you'll see, it just breathe and everything will be fine. You work it out.
and it was, yeah. It's just that sometimes, what is simple and easy going forward, we make it into mountains because of, I guess, the fear that's attached to it.
And all you needed, and I can just imagine Dad's voice. All you needed, and all he said was, "It will work out." Sometimes that's all we need. Just one line from someone. It will work out.
Hmm.
To believe. It doesn't have to be something that's, magical, abracadabra. But something as simple as it will work out. It'll all work out. Steve, what about you?
Yeah, you both have shared beautiful examples from personal life, and our culture revolves a lot around professional life. So the story that came to me um, was not the job I have now, but a previous job. I used to be a consultant, and when I had just made a promotion to a leader role, manager role, I had one project that was running, and the client said, I bet you could do this project instead of 5 days in one day. And the client thought that was a great idea, so we agreed. And then there were these 4 other days where I needed something else to do. So a new project came in, which was a commercial due diligence, something I had never done before. This is where you look up and down and left and right through the business operations of a company that's available for being acquired. And so I was a new manager, and I had this full-time project, which I was now doing in one day. And then this would be my first time to manage, to lead a project in an area I had never done. And these are very intense projects. Usually 6 or 8 weeks is a long time for a project like this. And I had a team who did not have the experience of having done that before. There was one person who did, but he was only 10% on the project. The person who was most skilled in this was pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and this is the kind of thing where you work overnight. We had to actually make a rule, you're not working past midnight, which is already a sad rule. And the other people were basically brand new to the company. So I laid all this out, why this was such a bad idea, and then I said, yes, I'll do it. If I'm going to call myself a strategy consultant, I need to be able to do this. And then I started running the project as if it weren't a commercial due diligence, if it was more like the type of project I was used to doing. And so 7 days in, we met with the client up in the skyscraper, and they all had these very shiny watches, and they just started tearing into me in front of everyone else within 30 seconds of the meeting starting. You haven't been in the data room. What are the answers? There are like 35 questions you have to answer. They wanted all the answers. And I said, oh, we have a process for getting towards the answers. That was not what they were looking for. And I think I actually blacked out. I sort of like a dream that you can't remember when you wake up again. I know that we were in a van on the way there and a van on the way back, and it was really a horrible moment. And I think I remember, being on the roof. I used to smoke cigarettes back then, so being on the roof and having a cigarette and kind of yelling, being mean to myself, like, "Come on, Steve, pull yourself together. You ought to be able to do this. You know, if you can't do this, what are you?" And so I really was in this mode of like I had to save the day. And up until that point, more or less, I had been able to save the day, but this was way too big, and I needed help from other people. And I thought if I asked for help, that would be the end. That would be the end. So that's the story that comes to mind. In the end, we did get help. I did need to admit that I didn't know what I was doing, and we brought in a bunch of other people on the project, and it worked out successfully. And it was just about one of my last projects I ever did in that field of work. Um, but one of the leaders said, "Steve, you may think your job is to save the day, but actually, in the position that you're in, your job is to wave the flag." Wave the white flag. We need help. There's an issue, something going on. I need your expertise. Come in.
Yeah. Yeah. So The two things that I'm hearing is, do you save the day and fall apart and break down? Or do you wave the white flag and say, I need help,
Uh,
I need help, which means I really will save the day. Raising the white flag means I'm going to save the day versus I have to save the day on my own.
yeah.
And so this all these stories, thank you for sharing them. They all lead us to something deeper. Why do you think so many people find it so hard to trust? And not just only trusting other people, but even trusting themselves. And I'm caught there often. So where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that happens? Maybe do you wanna lead the way here?
Trust. In my opinion, I think the biggest issue that when it comes to trust is fear. We are fearful to trust. We are fearful to first and foremost to trust ourselves of what we are capable of because of all the insecurities that we carry. And then we are fearful to trust others because of the insecurities that we carry. And so it's that fear that's inborn in us that from our past and as you know, Chloe, that I always talk about how the past affects the future and helps us redefine how the past affects the present and helps us redefine the future, and so a lot of the time it's because of what has happened to us in the past that we tend to be fearful of trusting others or even ourselves.
I would agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of power in the soil that we're raised in that affects how we trust, who we trust, when we feel safe to trust. I want to also throw in the role of capitalism in determining where we place our value of ourselves. And so I've been pretty harsh towards capitalism lately. I haven't been very kind towards the concept because, and here's why: capitalism and the outflows of it teach us to outsource our value. It takes the locus of control out of ourselves and places it on being more in shape or having a nicer set of gym shoes or having the right outfit to wear to the gym or having the right car to drive. And if we don't have those things, we tend to feel like we're not enough. We haven't done enough. We haven't earned, the visibility or the status that we want to achieve in our society. But what that does is then it kind of flips that esteem and makes the wanting for things outside of ourselves an absence of value in ourselves. And so if I don't trust myself, what happens is I start to second guess my enoughness. But when I do that, capitalism profits. You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like the world profits when we don't think we're enough, because that's why we buy stuff. I was about to cuss, but it's like the reason why we're compelled to more things, more stuff, is to compensate for things that
Yeah.
we don't think we already are. And so that initial wound, I feel, is the environment that we're in, the environment that we're born into, from a baby, to have the nicest buggy to cart our babies around in, or to have the nicest diapers so our babies' butts don't rash. It's just all these different dynamics at play that take us away from ourselves. And when we're away from ourselves, we second guess ourselves, which makes it hard for us to trust anybody. Because if we don't have a center, reaching out for help is not really the first thing we're after. We're reaching out for something other than help. So the help is the thing we can buy. or the pretty Barbie doll we can get for Christmas that I see this other girl have in daycare. So it's from the very young years, I think we get conditioned to go outside of ourselves, but not for help. We go for things to build up our identity. I feel like that's one of the bigger things that I've had to unravel, especially being here in Costa Rica, because the average income of the folks here is probably what I would make in 2 weeks. And so there's a profound value shift here, where they will literally take uh, throwaway things that didn't get delivered by Amazon, and they'll take those things and repurpose those things and make them toys and turn all kinds of things into greater value things. But I think from our conditioning in Western culture, it's been a little bit tainted by the idea that the value is not in us.
And I think the result of that upbringing, that environment, is a culture. This is my answer. Is a culture that rewards what I might call pretending, or rewards the sense of control, like I've got it under control, or I'm the boss and I have the authority to tell you what to do and how to do it, and that, almost like being the hero that I was trying to be at that project. I thought that's what it took to be really valued, as you're saying it. And then we punish vulnerability. We say, well, if I don't know, if I'm afraid, if I'm weak, if I'm lonely, if I don't have my stuff, I almost cussed with the same word you did, together. If I don't have all of that together, then I'm not valued, and that gets punished. So I think this is what leads to the difficulty with trust. Is look at Instagram, and we all know that these people are faking, but we play along with the game because that's how we
Yeah,
were. That's how we were raised.
yeah. And I know we're going to come to.
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead. Go ahead.
with what Kevin and Steve says, that we live in the time of superheroes, and we have to have this cape,
Mm,
this cape which is a facade, because it's not really us inside who's inside, and so this cape gives us this attitude of who we are that's not real. And I agree with both of you on this, because we it's time. How do you drop the facade? How do you get rid of that wall that you built, or this picture that you've painted? We today, I think, more than ever in the 21st century, are governed by three factors, which I think affects us very, very greatly. One is religion, whatever that is, and it not necessarily has to be any traditional religion, whether it is sports or whether it is something that you need to do, it becomes religious in your life. The other thing is politics. We see how politics has infused us. And the third thing is the 21st century thing, is crazy algorithms, which keep us in the past. Algorithms keep us in the past. What you search for a few seconds ago is going to be governing what you're going to see now and in the future. So these algorithms keep us in the past. So these are the three factors I feel that has been a huge problem for us in the 21st century.
This feels like we are constantly being brainwashed, and we're moving away from who we fundamentally are, who the essence of our soul is. So then we don't know what to trust anymore. And it feels like we're looking for the shiny objects. Is this it? Is this it? If I chase after that, will that give me satisfaction? And so then we don't know, just how do we trust ourselves? We move so far away from who we truly are.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you trust yourself by finding yourself in someone else. That's a definition of intimacy. You know, the way you get rid of the cape is you look at someone else and say, "Oh, you're wearing a cape too? I hate this cape. I don't even know where I got it, but I feel like I have to wear it around." And they say, "You know what? Me too." And then you got a whole bunch of people who don't know why they're wearing capes anymore, and the gig starts to be up. But only, I think, only with other people, maybe with ideas, you know, maybe with brilliant art and creativity and things you're exposed to, you can stumble upon that. But really, with another human being that you go through that with is what I think is the way out, or back, the way back.
Yeah, yeah. It's a well, we're literally a bundle of nerves, right? So when we are in these spaces where
And a bag of meat,
we're experiencing
bundle of
trauma
nerves, and a
and
bag
a
of
bag of
meat.
meat coated with meat, yes. Thank you for that, Steve. Reframe. You know, we're dealing with nervous system issues. So when we aren't trusting, it's literally a nervous system response. We don't feel safe. And so when we don't feel safe, what do? We fight, we fly, we flee, we fawn, we take on these stances that are defensive or protective. And those protections become a fortress after a while, you know, because the more we practice that protection, the more we practice non-trust, the less we reach out for connection. And so it just becomes this perpetual spiral of non-trust and reinforcing it, because when people aren't able to break through our fortress, we validate our non-trust. You know, just we just, oh well, see, they didn't help us the way we thought they were going to help us. So now I'm proving myself right. But as Steve said, we need mutuality to experience ourselves. And so the moment we expose ourselves, that's when we have the possibility of trust. It may not always yield trustworthy behavior, but we can't experience trust if we don't open ourselves up to the vulnerability of it. That's to me the rub of our conversation is we want to trust, but we haven't been experiencing trust. So when do I allow myself to experience trust? I have to trust to get trust, which is a serious catch-22.
Yeah.
We're always seeing ourselves in other people. We watch a movie, we're looking at our story in that story. Everything. Read a book, we're looking at, well, that's my life there. I understand how they feel. And coming back to how that first comment you made, UB, is why we're fearful of trust is because of our insecurities, and then we fear we don't trust others because we're fearful of the insecurities of our insecurities that we see in them. It's all about the projection. And when you said mutuality, we're looking at where, because of what we cannot see and our insecurities, there is no safety. What would happen when we look for the best in people? Because we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to look for where's the safe place that I can trust. Yeah. And
I think
go ahead.
Go ahead, you.
I think one of the things that I've learned to do is that I've learned to learn how to fall backward. And because for a couple of reasons, when you learn to fall backward, you assume that somebody's there to catch you, and if somebody's there to catch you, then you're safe. Or people then think, oh well, if they don't, they're not able to catch me, then I may fall anyway, so I can't trust them. What I say is that when you learn to fall backward, it's not because there's somebody there to catch you, because that's when you learn to fly. And you look up and you see the sky, and you see the clouds, and you see everything that's above, and it's infinity. And those clouds give you definition of what infinity is, but you're learning to fly because you trusted yourself when you fall backward. You don't have to see the ground that's coming. You now can see beyond it. You can see the future because you've now planned yourself for that. And so I think in that way that fear of what happens if I make a mistake What happens if I'm wrong? It's okay. Most of the time we are wrong. And that's how we learn. We learn more from our mistakes than from our successes. Because from those mistakes, we build the foundations for our success.
So let's come to the another question here. So we have this pretend performing strength, and we have embodied real strength. For people listening, how can they embody? How can they tap into who's the real me? What's my real strength? How do I get there? I want to get there. I'm struggling to do that. How do we get there? And I don't want to say not just only for everybody to see, but for us as well. How do we get there?
It's an act of courage. Drop the armor, or take off the cape. I was thinking about superheroes, and they all have something in common. You're not allowed to know who they really are. You're not allowed to know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker or Superman is Clark Kent, which is interesting. Either Superman is not real, or for Superman to be able to survive, he actually has to have an alter ego. Who he really is Clark Kent, so he can have friends and do normal things like the rest of us. So there's something about dropping the armor, the facade, the cape, the pretending, and say, man, I didn't know how to do that. Or I mentioned that I used to smoke cigarettes. It happens when you move to Amsterdam, maybe. Another time when I really needed help from people was at my CTI leadership program, the second retreat, a week-long retreat. One of the leaders saw me being me. And I think there are environments out there where you can create where trust exists. You do learn to trust people, and they're very rare environments and very rare times. But I was lucky enough to be in one of those on the second day of the second retreat of CTI leadership. And the leader called me out and said, I was saying people should be more like they are when they're kids, which I think is probably also part of the answer here. And the leader, L.A. Redding, she said, "Oh, Steve, do you really believe that?" Because I was professing, how I knew the truth back then, and I said, "Yeah, I do." And she says, "Oh, so you also would say that it's better for you to be more like the 4 or 5 year old version of yourself?" And I know I'm kind of in a trap here, but I thought about it and I said, "Yes, I do." And then she said, "Okay, well, then I challenge you to quit smoking." In front of 27 other people in this really tender moment where I was showing up as myself with my true conviction. And it was something I wanted to do for a long time, to quit. And I looked around at all the people in the room. I was the only one, who was going for cigarette breaks and all these breaks. And I asked, well, how many of you have been a smoker and quit it? And it was like half of the hands went up. And there was someone in the group who had experience with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and had shared that. And I asked, will you be my sponsor? And he said, I will. And just the whole energy of that room changed. It's like we were all looking up, Yubi, at the sky and seeing our future together. And at this moment, me quitting smoking, realizing this dream, became a shared sign of trust, and that what we were doing was real and it could happen. And the last cigarette that I had, except for maybe in my dreams, I think sometimes I dream that I'm still smoking, was 45 minutes before that at the previous break. And so it was a real true miracle. Somebody saw me, called me out. I asked for help. I asked, has anyone else been through this? I knew who could really support me. And then it became a shared goal and a symbol that meant something outside of just myself.
You know, I'm just looking at everybody on here, and I'm thinking about the worst time in my life that I needed to have the courage to reach out, and I wondered who could I. And I'm looking at who's on here, and I'm like, these are the people I reached out to. You'll know my soul, all of and my sister who is not here. But this is my core. And I'm wondering, you know, who's our core? Who are the few people that we know we can always rely on no matter what because they have our backs? Because that's what we need to be sufficient, not just be self-sufficient, but to have a tribe where we belong. And it's all about belonging because as soon as you feel you belong, there is strength and power in that kind of unity, that kind of love. Because with, right here just on this call, there's so much of love. There's so much of love. We all love each other unconditionally. We there for each other at any time. And the other thing is, I can be my true, raw, vulnerable self with every one of you. The same thing with you guys. You can do that with me and with each other. So that's that's where we want to be as a society.
And as I hear you say that, a phrase came back to me. I was talking with a friend of mine earlier today about this topic, and I think one of the things that will come to my mind is a question: will you hold this with me? And when I heard Steve's story, that's what it sounded like. It wasn't can I quit smoking? It was, will you all hold this with me? And everyone, those that had done it already raised their hand. Those that were just supporting you raised their hand. It's like, so all of a sudden you literally probably got rewired in some way to be able to take that on in a way that if you were to just use your willpower and knuckle down and try to, will it out, it would have been excruciating.
Well, I know. I tried that for about 5 to 10 years prior.
Right. And yet the science tells us that we need each other to rewire. We can't do it independently of some other mirror telling us, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Even when our self-doubts are telling us, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's when Chloe and I talk. It's when Steve and I talk. It's when you and I are going to talk at some point. And those conversations are what helps us see, oh, that is possible. I can do that. I can do more than I thought I could, which is trust in me. But it doesn't happen until I see it from you, like, oh, you see that I can do it when I didn't see.
That's really interesting.
It's just
because
beautiful.
What LA saw in me is that at that moment I was trusting myself. I was trusting what I said as the truth. And she's amazing. She just knew that was the moment where my life would change if she seized it. Yeah, that's really self-trust that made it happen.
Yeah. It's that moment when you realize that you can actually walk on water, that anything is possible, that you can rise above all the problems and the issues that are holding you down. And you think, and sometimes they simple things, that we just got to look at it from a different point of view. I always say that if you look at an apple, every single side of the apple is different, even though it looks smooth, but it's different. And yet, whatever side we look at it, it's still an apple. It doesn't change. And Chloe used a word in her opening, a term that she used in her opening, is that I'm tired. I'm tired. And that is a trigger that I listen for. When somebody says to you, I'm tired, that tells you so much of what is happening with that person. I'm lost. I'm sad. I'm fearful. I'm lonely. And the one word they use is, I'm tired. I'm just so tired. I just need a break. I just need to get away. You hear these catchwords that are being used: get away, break. shares to you. Now it gives us the opportunity, who's and whoever is watching this, the opportunity to say, oh, yeah, I do as well. I do feel. And first and foremost, you got to get into their space, and nobody wants to be talked to or preached at, and they need to know that, yes, you're not alone, as the famous song goes, you're always in my heart, and so I'm always there for you, and that's the sort of thing that people just want to hear, and I want to hear, that I'm not alone, and this, throughout our lives, it's not like it used to be. It's difficult. My dad used to go to work and come back home, and go to work and come back home, and it was that, and then Saturdays we go shopping, and Sundays we go church, and that was our world. But it's different today. Today you have the first and foremost, you have the whole world in your hand, and the world has you in their hand at the same time. The moment you grab that device, you're part of their world, and they telling you what to think. And we don't trust each other just by saying, you know what, yes, I can do it. It's time to drop that mask. It's time to break down that wall. We do not have to live like the Joneses. We do not have to drive like the Joneses. We don't have to speak and talk like the Joneses. We can be we. Again, it's another song. I gotta be me. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I gotta be me. And we gotta try and reinforce that in us, and in the people that we are close to.
You know what? Such amazing wisdom in this room and so much of experiences and nuggets. Steve, thank you for sharing that story. Because that story was the catalyst. And all of a sudden, the conversation changed. When you shared your story, I thought, that's what you'll do for me. So it made me think about my story where I am surrounded. And I'm wondering if we share these kinds of stories, people will then start thinking about the support that they do have, that they forget about. Because we all kind of default to I'm alone. I've got nobody. We default and we forget that we are surrounded. There are people that love us. We can reach out.
They're
You know,
everywhere. Oh.
yeah, everywhere, everywhere. So and to all of you out there, if there's a place in your life where you've been quietly carrying more than you should, what would it look like if you said, I could use some support? It might be a text, a prayer, a breath, a pause that says, I can't keep holding this alone. I have to reach out. You don't have to wait for a breakdown. You can choose to reach out. You can choose trust over isolation. You can choose trust over isolation. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? So, I'm gonna go for it here, guys. Let's think about what a thought hack is. Um, I'm gonna go for something, and let's see what you guys all what hacks you can come up with. Something quick. So, um, I reach out because I'm wise.
Well, UB shared that algorithms keep us in the past, but I think AI actually has a way of putting stuff from the past together in a new and unexpected way, and maybe helps us connect with the future. So I asked Chad, my beloved AI, Chad GPT, for a thought hack around this topic, and I love what he came up with. He said, instead of this thought that I had, I have to figure this out myself, what if the solution exists between me and someone else? And so, in that way, asking for help isn't stepping back, but it's stepping toward. So that's a thought hack. You don't have to figure it out yourself. The answer is between you and all these other people that love you and you love, and step towards them and you'll find the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll probably find you have the right, you have the wrong question by yourself. You find the right question and then the answers.
Well, I think I'll add to that, to the lexicon of hacks. The trust requires resonance, and so if resonance is effectively the tone that you carry, resounding or resounding with another person's tone, and if I call Chloe and our tones resonate, I know that I can trust her. And so just having this sense, and it has to be built, that this isn't something we've been kind of disconnected from this sense of intuitive knowing. But once you steadily build that up, you'll start to know what your own tone is. And you'll know when you meet someone and have conversation with someone that their tone resonates with you. There's a feeling state that creates in us. There's also a neurological experience that we have when someone resonates with us. And so it may not always need evidence to trust other than the feeling state of resonance. And so I want to offer that as another layer to the thought hack.
Okay.
To add on what Kevin said is just, the Doppler effect. Isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Wow.
And that's,
Go ahead, Cody.
and no, I think that we, again, to quote, who, you're always in my, though we far apart, you're always in my heart. Again, sometimes we just look at the simple things, we don't have to be in the same space, but by having somebody in your heart to reaching out and knowing, and also the other thing is that the other person knows that you are there. That's the most important thing I feel, that, Chloe and I hardly ever talk, but we know that when we do, she's there, and she knows that I'll be there. And that's what I think is so important in the very simple terms. And talking about it's in the nerves, in the neuroplasticity of life, we now know that the brain can change. We were taught for centuries that it could never ever change. And now, because of neuroplasticity, we can change the way the brain behaves, and the brain can have new neurons and fire. There's that, neurons that are wired together, fire together, and I think we spoke about this, about my grandmom and Pond's cream. How if I used to buy Pond's cream for my grandmom, and today if I see a Pond's cream ad, or if I smell some Pond's cream, immediately I think of my grandmother. I remember her face and the way she looked, and the tattoo she had on her forehead, and the way she cooked, and the clothes she wore, and how warm she was, and all those things takes me back to her. But there's also negativity as well. These triggers also trigger the sad and the bad things in our lives. And so how do we overcome that? Knowing that there's other people out there who are there to support you, even though you're going through and I don't want to quote the famous Oscar slap, but it shows you that there was nobody next to him to hold his hand, to say, no, wait, there wasn't. And we saw, the whole world saw how childhood trauma, complex PTSD, affects us all. And so I think from that point of view, it's important that we are there just holding a hand, just a touch to say, I'm here, you know. And we now have other, we have WhatsApp and we have other ways of just sending a message, thinking of you,
Mhm.
you know.
Okay, so we are at the end of our program. Thank you, all three. Powerful, amazing, deep, so deep conversation. Um, and I have a song. I'm not going to sing it, I'm just going to read the words. Since we have a lot of
Can I just say
children,
one thing, Chloe,
yeah,
before you go? Before you go sing,
I'm not going to sing.
there's okay. There's something that I wrote down and I wanted to share, and it's scripture, but I think it's important. What do we do when we are struggling to help us reach out? Think on whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable. If there is any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think on those things. Okay.
Somehow that verse had a little more life tonight than if I was reading it. That is so true. That is so true. Let me call out the words. You're going to know it. You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you've got a friend in me. You got troubles, I've got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together. If we stick together, we can see it through. Because you've got a friend in me. We all have
Mhm.
friends. There are friends all over. And friends are nobody's perfect, but we have friends. So reach out to the friends that can support you. Thank you, Judy. I know it's early morning there in South Africa. KJ,
It's pouring rain
really?
outside.
KJ from the amazing land of the South Americas, and Steve from the Grand Rapids in the north. So I'm hoping that next week we're going to be able to do the same thing. And I have something else that's on my mind that I want us to talk about because this conversation was so real. Thank you. So to everybody out there,
Thank you.
be
enjoy
brave.
enjoy
Yeah.
New Jersey. Enjoy New Jersey. It's
Oh
not a
yeah.
secret where you are, right?
Yeah. New Jersey. Yeah. Yeah. So to everybody out there, be brave enough to be held. Be strong
Mm.
enough to let go. Be wise enough to trust again. Because you can be soft and strong. You can be held and whole. You can be unshaken without carrying it alone. So, in our next episode, we'll explore the pressure to perform, why we tie our worth to our output, and what it looks like to unhook our identity from productivity. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're not alone. You never were.